It's another edition of Root Access. It is warm. Summer is here.
Yep.
And you know what that means? Camp.
Oh, I thought you were going to say bikinis.
Well, bikinis at camp.
Oh, really?
But not underage bikinis.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about Apple Camp, or the presentations formerly known as Apple Camp.
So what's it called now?
Well, back in the day, we knew it as Apple
Yeah.
Camp, and there would be a few days a week on different topics. But now, getting hip with the kids, these are now jam sessions, I believe. They're youth workshops.
Okay.
And one is called Jam. That's for making music. Mm-hmm. You've got Action for making a movie. Snap for photo, because you know how every digital camera makes a snap.
Yeah, sure.
And then Show to make a presentation, which is perhaps the weakest of the...
So a bunch of 12-year-olds doing PowerPoint.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So parents, if you ever wanted to go to the mall and shop and not have the kids in tow and really make somebody else's day miserable,
Sign them up to Apple.
sign them up to the Apple Camps or now the Apple Youth Workshops.
Yeah, I remember they would typically be like on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning.
There I guess morning throughout the week.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I just remember, the thing I remember most is that most of the Apple employees couldn't stand doing it because it's a lot of work it's tough to work with kids, and what was the age group? You had like 6 or 7 to...
Well, I want to say like 7 or 8,
Yeah.
and then up to the teens, but there was a cutoff where you weren't supposed to leave them alone.
Okay.
Which I want to say was like 11 or 12. But sometimes it didn't matter because, frankly, there were parents that were as bad as the kids, And you're right, it was a lot of work.
Yep.
Now, did the kids get something out of it? Honestly, I think you'd be better off buying a one-to-one card or doing some sort of time with a creative if you really want the kid to learn it. Mm-hmm. Now, these generally last about 3 hours. I think that was the case. Let me see if that's still the case. So it wasn't like real camp. You couldn't just drop them off and come back in 3 days and pick them up.
And then they would put together, like a presentation?
Well,
or like a video?
A video. Now,
I don't ever remember seeing what they did.
Well,
I don't think they ever had like a finished product.
Well, the funny thing is when I used to do them, I should point out I did some of the camps, but for example, the movie camp, at that time, the Apple stores had video cameras.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And now there aren't video cameras.
Yeah.
And the Apple stores had digital still cameras for sale, and now they don't have digital still cameras for sale. So I don't know whether there are, units in the back that the kids use. Maybe they just have to pick up the computer and eyesight a movie together.
Yeah.
It's just not real practical. I don't really get it because it doesn't really drive business.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone, my kid learned to do, PowerPoint or Keynote, now I'm going to have to buy Keynote.
So were the kids that typically would come in, they were already Mac users, right? Or
Yes.
they weren't like...
Yes.
They weren't like on the fence.
No,
Okay.
these were Mac, very...
Okay.
They were good kids, but for the most part, they were very precocious Mac children.
Yeah.
Those are the words I'll use on air. And they would come with the parents, and it was rough for salespeople because at that time there was a lot of emphasis on numbers, and you've got a big chunk of your day where you're just standing there with these kids, and you never really got in depth enough on anything because you didn't have the right equipment. You couldn't really do it.
Yeah, well, I remember like the store would open and camp would still be going on. Like I don't know if it was supposed to, but it would sometimes run late. And then you would have the store flooded with customers and the music's blasting and someone is trying to teach camp and it just seemed like mass chaos. And the parents would come in and it's like, where's my kid? And
I don't know.
I'm just glad. I mean, the genius is we never had to deal with that. And I'm kind of glad.
You just would make faces at the misery of those of us stuck with the camp.
Well, I would just remember hear Mac Specialist run in the back just cursing, saying, I hate this, I hate doing this. I'm sure some of them enjoyed it.
There was this whole off-stage, on-stage thing. As soon as you went through that door to the back,
you're
you kind of release your feelings about camp and then go back out there. All right, kids, let's take a look at those keynotes. Well, and the other thing, once the store opened, if you had a sizable group, they were taking up a fair number of the computers, especially now when there are so many, iPods and iPhones around rather than computers.
Yep.
It must just take up every computer when they can.
Well, I think the idea is probably good. It probably works well, like in a large flagship store. We were in a 30-foot store, and it was a little cramped. But But I guess it must be successful because this is like what, the fourth or fifth year
of it. At this part, it just doesn't seem that successful. There's something else called school night. Now that's,
oh yeah, I remember. That was a whole nother.
That's when various schools, generally schools that already used Macs, the Mac education reps would be kind enough to say, hey, they're having school night at the Apple Store, and then 30, 40 third graders would come in.
That was almost, I think, worse because that would happen sometimes at the busiest time of the
It would happen in prime time,
yeah.
Sure.
And you'd have these kids taking up all the computers, showing their presentations to their parents or whoever, and and then customers are trying to like get a demo on the machine, and they're
You'd see them outside. They're afraid to come in.
Yeah, it was a little awkward. But I guess it's still successful because I think they still do that.
So, a tip: if you happen to see that a school night is coming up, that would not be a good night to go shopping.
No.
Try to go before school night kicks off. So, with that, I guess we'll go buy some marshmallows.
It makes you wonder, like how
for s'mores. Not sure. That wasn't just
I was
randomly
going to say
marshmallows.
it makes you wonder how Mr. Rogers did it.
Well, the kids weren't there. They weren't in front.
There was puppets.
Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, I appreciate all that you did. However, if you were still here, I would challenge you to come into an Apple store and corral 45 of these children to create coherent presentations.
I mean, he used the PC anyhow, I heard.
Oh.